Deep in the Black Hills of South Dakota stands one of the biggest and unlikeliest monuments on the face of the earth, a feat of modern engineering that relies on the ingenuity of the ancient Greek, a carving of surprising delicacy, fashioned with jackhammers and dynamite, a work of public art that began without a whisper of public support. Its size, its remote location, its compelling oddness beg a question: how it get there? In today's episode of Around the World, we're gonna find out. Mount Rushmore National Memorial is located in the Black Hills of southwestern South Dakota. It lies about 25 miles to the southwest of Rapid City, 10 miles to the northeast of Custer, and just north of Custer State Park. The colossal sculpture was carved into the granite face of a mountain, depicting four of the most famous and influential presidents in the history of the United States: George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Abraham Lincoln, and Theodore Roosevelt. Heads of the presidents are 60 feet or 18 meters tall. That's a height of a 6-story building. Their eyes are each 11 feet or 3.3 meters across, and their noses are 20 feet or 6 meters. The mountain itself, at an elevation of 5,725 feet, was named after Charles E. Rushmore, a New York lawyer in 1885. The memorial, which covered 2 square miles, was designated in 1925 and dedicated in 1927. That's all the basic information of Mount Rushmore in general. Let's get back to the question we posed earlier. How did they actually get there? The answer begins with one man, a historian named Don Robinson, in 1923. He suggested the idea of building an impressive sculpture as a way to attract visitors to South Dakota and boost the economy of the state. Guston Boglum, a famous American architect and sculptor of Danish descent, was selected to design and create the monument. Originally, Robinson came up with the idea of making the carvings in granite pillars known as the Needles in the Black Hills of South Dakota. However, Boglum realized that the eroded needles were too thin to support sculpting, so he decided to choose Mount Rushmore for the monument instead, since it seemed to be the easiest and the most stable of the cliffs to work on. Congress approved the project on March 3, 1925, and it wasn't until October 4, 1927 that the work began to carry out. Over the next 14 years, 400 workers, most of whom were miners, sculptors, and rock climbers, plastic more than 400,000 tons of rock off the mountainside, using dynamite, finishing the details with jackhammers and chisels. Despite the dangerous working condition, no one died during the construction of Mount Rushmore. The construction was headed by Guston Boglum until 1941, when he passed away because of a heart attack. Later, his son Lincoln Boglum took over his position as the leader of the construction project. The head of George Washington was started first due to the economic instability of the United States caused by the Great Depression at the time. It took 7 years to complete. The head was finished in 1934 and dedicated to the public on Independence Day that year. Later, Thomas Jefferson's head was completed in 1936. Interestingly, Thomas Jefferson had been planning to stand on Washington's right. However, due to the poor rock quality, the head was blown up when it was nearly complete, and he was moved to the other side. The next head to be completed was Abraham Lincoln, and it was finished in 1937, which was also the 150th anniversary of signing the Constitution of the United States in 1787. Fun fact, Lincoln's head was also the most challenging one to construct. Theodore Roosevelt's head was the last one to be done and was dedicated in 1939. While Theodore Roosevelt's head was being constructed, accommodations for tourists were being built, including plumbing, lighting, and a visitor center. Mount Rushmore only cost less than $1 million to complete. At first, the sculpture was supposed to show the president down to their waist. They even had a concept sculpture showing it off. However, funding eventually got that part of monument scrapped, and by 1941, they called Mount Rushmore complete, and it stands as it is now because of that.
and I'm sure including you guys, may wonder why these 4 presidents are selected from dozens of US presidents to be put on the mountain that is Mount Rushmore. The simple and honest answer is that when you compile what these 4 did, they helped to shape America into what it looks like today. And interestingly, all of these 4 presidents were chosen by Gutenberg himself. George Washington, the country's first president, was famous for leading the American Revolutionary War to the final victory of independence from the British Empire. He was the symbol of the nation's birth and also laid the foundation for American democracy, so the creation earned him his spot. Thomas Jefferson was the 3rd president of the US. He was the author of the Declaration of Independence that later inspired democracies around the world, and also the one who bought Louisiana territory from France in 1803, which gave the US double the land it had before. To his name is expansion associated with. Abraham Lincoln, the US 16th president, had the dubious honor of being president during the first and only civil war in the US history. Through his hard work, dedication, and faith in America, the North was be able to beat the South and be a singular country once again. He helped to preserve the whole nation during the Civil War and brought about the emancipation of enslaved people in the US. So thus unification was Lincoln's ticket to the mountain. Theodore Roosevelt was the 26th president of the US who provided leadership when America experienced the rapid economic growth as it entered the 20th century. He was instrumental in negotiating the construction of the Panama Canal, a symbol of economic growth linking the East and the West, so he was chosen for representing the development of the nation. Nowadays, Mount Rushmore is a national monument in the United States that outlines the historical and cultural heritage of Americans. It's a tourist destination, attracting more than 3 million visitors each year. Mount Rushmore is responsible for the economic growth of the state of South Dakota and has boosted tourism revenue not only for the state but for the US as a whole. Over 80 years have passed since the day this incredible sculpture was completed. Today, Mount Rushmore is still regarded as one of the greatest monuments of all time, an icon, a phenomenon that represents not only the rich history of the United States of America, but also the outstanding artistic skills of the gifted sculptor, a true artist, Gutenberg.